In this video, Tim Pool claims the FBI has gone rogue because of the horrible mishandling of what was the Epstein file release. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi addresses the Epstein file release debacle. Karine Jean-Pierre buries the Democratic Party. Elon Musk turns Joy Behar into an anti-immigrant activist. J.D. Vance crushes Kiers Starmer to his face on free speech. And Hakeem Jeffries says that Trump is unleashing a quote-unquote parade of horribles on America. And Apple gives the British government full access to their customers' text messages, video, and anything on their phone. Let's get into it. Say that the Epstein files were underwhelming yesterday when they came out would be an understatement. But now we have a good idea why. I have some clips to play for you here. The first one will be a Pam Bondi addressing this situation about how she was lied to about these files. We have Jesse Waters looking into it, and Tim Pool saying that the FBI has gone rogue because they did not give Pam Bondi the full set of files as she requested. Let's get into it.
We're here with, and I'm very excited about this, Attorney General Pam Bondi, a good friend, especially a good friend of my wife, but a wonderful lady, a great lawyer. Welcome to the program, Madam Attorney General. I want to get into this Epstein thing a little bit. I think the American people are very curious about who's on this list, or these lists. You have been doggedly trying to get all the information, and now we learn, thanks to you, that you've been stonewalled by people in New York. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, Mark. So as you know, we released about 120 pages of documents, and I started asking for these documents right when I came into office and before Kash Patel was in there. So I ended up getting about 120 pages. We carefully redacted them, of course, to be sure the 254 young girls, women who are victims of sex crimes and sex trafficking, their personal information was redacted and out of there to protect them. So I'm going through it and I kept saying, there has to be more, there has to be more. I'm assured that's it. Kash asked the same questions. Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, S.D.N.Y, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information and confidential witnesses. But the American people have a right to know. And Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin Luther King.
Last night on Jesse Waters Primetime, Attorney General Pam Bondi said this.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
So we were looking today to find out more about why the government's been so suspiciously protective of Jeffrey Epstein. This afternoon, a bunch of conservative influencers left a meeting at the White House with binders that said the Epstein files, phase 1. Once the binders were opened, people were able to see flight records and Epstein's Rolodex and a list of masseuses. The masseuses' names were blacked out, and the information from the flight logs wasn't new. Neither was the Rolodex. When we began to feel duped, Pam Bondi released a letter that says, basically, I was duped too. In the letter addressed to FBI Director Kash Patel, Bondi basically says, I asked you for the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. I received 200 pages of documents. I asked if these were all the documents, and the FBI said yes. Late yesterday, I learned from a source at the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and the indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the evidence of these files. Bondi's demanding by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning that the FBI deliver everything to her office, including all records, audio, video recordings, all materials related to Epstein. And she ensures DOJ will disclose everything. And she's directing Patel to begin an immediate investigation into why the FBI isn't following orders. So who's in charge at the New York FBI field office? Who's withholding Epstein docs from the Attorney General? James Dennehy is running the show there. There he is. This is the guy who emailed his whole staff to dig in after Trump took office. And don't forget that James Comey's daughter is an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. She worked on the Epstein and Maxwell cases. She's kind of knee-deep in this. Epstein was facing sex trafficking charges in Lower Manhattan. Where's all that paperwork? The FBI seized computers, surveillance videos, banking records, file cabinets, and photographs from all of Epstein's properties in New Mexico, the Virgin Islands, Palm Beach, and in New York. The Justice Department also gave Epstein a sweetheart non-prosecution deal 17 years ago. Where are those files? The Bureau of Prisons. Where are those files? You remember where Epstein killed himself? I asked Bill Barr about that, why everything seemed to go wrong that night.
When I first heard all the information and all the coincidences here, I was suspicious.
What were the coincidences? I mean, those were a lot of coincidences.
Well, one of the cameras was out.
Right.
He was supposed to have a cellmate. The cellmate left. They didn't replace the cellmate. And the guards who were supposed to check him every half hour didn't check him.
My EMT source said he was on the scene immediately to pull Epstein's body out to the morgue. And when he got to the cell, he saw 7 people there touching Epstein's body and moving stuff around. Trump did say during the campaign he'd release these files, so it's not like this came out of the blue. Jeffrey Epstein did act as an informant to the FBI. Is the Bureau embarrassed? Is the Bureau embarrassed that they let hundreds of young victims down? This was all happening right under everyone's noses. Epstein was probably an intelligence asset, rumored to be working with the Israelis, maybe this country, probably other countries. Was he a double agent? He had dirt on everyone and a knack for making cash. And he's dead. So the government has no one to protect but themselves.
I'm going to say it. I believe the FBI has gone rogue. We have been provided a letter from an unnamed source, and it appears that elements of the federal government are intentionally hiding the Epstein documents to prevent them from being released. This is a degree of shocking I cannot begin to describe. I'm not going to bury the lead or wait. I've got it right here. This letter, again, provided to me from an unnamed source. Office of the Attorney General, Washington, D.C., 20530, February 27th, 2025. Let me read you this shocking letter that reads, Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office, including all records, documents, audio and video recordings, and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, regardless of how such information was obtained. There will be no withholdings or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public disclosure of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims and in accordance with the law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. I am also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings and proposed personnel action within 14 days. I appreciate your immediate attention to this important matter. I know that we are both committed to transparency for the American people, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to serve our president and our country. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, I cannot say it any more clearly. I see this, and my immediate reaction is there are rogue criminal elements in the FBI acting outside the structure of our government. That is it. We have elected a president. He has appointed, he has gotten them confirmed, his cabinet members. They have given lawful orders to our law enforcement federal apparatus, and they have denied the Attorney General of these United States access to information pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal enterprise. The question is why?
I have no doubt that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi will get this done. Let's hope this gets done swiftly, efficiently, that not too much stuff has been destroyed, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of victims here. And as much as I want to know who's on that list, because we have a good idea of who a lot of these people will be, only Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell have gone to jail for this. And we hear Alina Habba coming out and saying that heads are going to roll for this. People need to go to jail. Bad things happen. And I fully agree. There's over 200 victims. A lot of them are underage at the time. If you do bad things, fuck around and find out. Now let's get to J.D. Vance calling out Keir Starmer to his face about free speech laws in Britain. Then we have an interview of Keir Starmer on Fox News saying that they have great free speech laws, which they don't, followed by a clip of our girl Isabel, who's talking about the fact that Apple in England has allowed the government access to their citizens' private phones. So they can read, if you're in England, they can read your text messages, they can see your video, they can go into your phone if they want to without you having any say whatsoever. Let's get it.
I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
He did say today, we do have this special relationship with our friends in the UK and some European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, I think, has brought this up.
Yeah.
This is about UK's Online Safety Act. Is the UK and EU trying to censor speech?
No, we don't believe in censoring speech. But of course, we do need to deal with terrorism. We need to deal with paedophiles and issues like that. But I talked to the Vice President about it today, and we had a good exchange about it. And of course, he's right to champion free speech. We champion free speech in the United Kingdom. And in relation to the measures that we've taken, obviously, we're very mindful that it shouldn't have an impact on US citizens.
We just watched the single greatest invasion of individual privacy and expression in modern Western history, and basically no one is talking about it. Apple has officially bowed down to the demands of the current, let's face it, totalitarian British government led by Keir Starmer to force the company to give a backdoor to the government of the UK into basically anything on their citizens' personal electronic devices. Yikes. So over the weekend, quietly, because the media didn't cover it much, Apple said they would be removing all of their end-to-end encryption services on iCloud, specifically for Apple customers in the UK, meaning that the UK government essentially has full jurisdiction now to view anything on your devices. What's in your camera roll, what messages you're sending, the files saved to your devices on iCloud, the whole enchilada. I guess it's not enough for the UK government to send police officers and mental health professionals door to door to arrest people for your posts on Facebook, or to send sweet old grandmothers praying outside of abortion facilities to prison. Now they actually have to scare you into self-censorship so much that they have the jurisdiction to look at what you've screenshotted, saved, texted to your friend, or have encrypted on your phone that not even Apple is allowed to look at, but the government is. Remember how the last several years it's been all of these Western governments screaming at you that apps like TikTok are the problem for data security? And the screaming was a little suspiciously loud, probably because they want to do and or are doing all of the things they're accusing these social media platforms of doing. Just putting that back out there in case we need the reminder.
This is wild about Apple. This is why I'm happy that Trump got into office, because anybody that thinks that this can't happen to their country, they think again. You get the wrong people in charge, and this can happen to you. Now, here is a clip of Joy Behar spreading lies about Elon Musk and then having to read a legal note. You can't go on TV and just defame people like that and say that Elon Musk was pro-apartheid. The view are so ridiculous because 1 week they're pro-illegal immigration, and now this week, Elon Musk, who's a legal immigrant who naturalized to the U.S. If you're in the U.S. long enough, it's 7 years, I think, you can naturalize if you spend enough time in America and you go through the right processes. Most countries have a path towards naturalization. Legally, Joy Behar's a clown. Let's get to it.
And Elon Musk kisses his butt and strokes his tiny ego or big ego, whatever it is. And he doesn't get to do, he can take a nap while the guy who was not born in this country, who was born under apartheid in South Africa, so has that mentality going on. He was pro-apartheid, as I understand it.
He's a naturalized citizen.
Right?
Now.
He's a naturalized citizen.
Now he's a naturalized citizen.
Oh, really? How did he do that? Did he come over the border legally?
He had an H-1B visa, I believe.
He flew in.
Yeah, he allegedly overstayed that visa.
Yeah, but I think this is just perfectly wonderful for Trump. He can take a nap and let this foreign agent, an enemy of the United States, do his job.
Anybody else?
I don't like Elon. I wouldn't go as far as to necessarily call him an enemy of the United States yet. Let's give him a little bit of time.
This is one of the reasons I love this show. Go ahead, Joy.
I was just going to say that now I'm getting some flack because I said that Musk was pro-apartheid. I don't really know for sure if he was. He grew up at that time when apartheid was in full bloom before the great Nelson Mandela fixed that. He was around at that time, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He might have been a young guy, too.
Might have been.
So don't be suing me, okay, Elon? They're allowed to say any lie they want, but we have to be really strict. That's why this show's important.
Yeah.
Now we have a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre burying the Democratic Party for what they did to Joe Biden. In my opinion here, just trying to save her own keys, because she spent the last 4 years lying to the American people almost on a daily basis. So I have no pity for KJP, but this is still an interesting clip to have a look at. Following that, we're going to have a quick look at Chris Cuomo, Bill Riley, talking about Trump, talking about Putin, and Hakeem Jeffries saying that Trump is unleashing a quote-unquote parade of horribles, whatever that is, on the American people. Let's go.
Personally, I think what was the toughest thing to see in the 3 weeks was there was a disconnect for me, what was happening with leadership in the Democratic Party and how it was truly, as my former colleague, communications director, Ben LeBolt said, it was a firing squad. And I had never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen a party do that in the way that they did. And it was hurtful and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can for this country, a person who I believe, as I mentioned before, has done more in one term than most presidents had done in 2 terms, historical things. And I was shocked by what I was seeing.
And Karine, just to clarify, these are other Democrats and Democratic leadership coming out against Biden.
Yep, I had never seen anything like that. That was, if you're asking me, the thing that I saw in those 3 weeks, that was shocking. Shocking. And instead of coming together to really be unified and trying to figure out how do we save our democracy, how do we fight back, that's what I was seeing. And, that's what we decided to do for 3 weeks. And, it was truly, truly unfortunate. And I think it hurt us more than I think folks realized to have done that.
And I know we're coming, and thank you so much for your question.
Thank you so much for your question.
I know we're coming up.
Explain to me how bashing Ukraine And talking about them like you were really talking about the truth about Russia helps this situation.
Okay. So you obviously didn't read my column on Sunday or my message of the day on Monday. Putin holds all the cards. So you're going in to a negotiation, you have no strengths at all. United States and Europe. Putin holds every card. Biden couldn't even get him to pick up the phone. Did you know that? Putin wouldn't take Biden's calls for 2 years. Trump wants Putin at the table. That's what this mineral deal was all about. That'll be signed tomorrow. It's a good deal for Ukraine and the United States because it puts the United States physically in Ukraine. Makes it harder for bad Vlad to misbehave. But anyway, the overarch is, if I can get Vlad to the table, I can reason with him. And Vlad is suffering, true, but Putin does not care about his people at all. Cares about himself. That's it. So the strategy is flatter him, make provocative statements about his enemy, and co-opt him into stopping this savage war. That is the strategy. Will it work? I think
it's not just an overreach from the Trump administration. It's an aggressive overreach. It's a parade of horribles that the administration has unleashed on the American people. And we have to continue to push back aggressively in every way possible in defense of the American people. Push back in the Congress, just like we did as it relates to the reckless Republican budget.